But how do we know if the knowledge being taught is true or not? It's a most relevant question because if someone teaches something that's untrue or harmful, then all of the practical value is gone. And of course, this would also mean that the time spent acquiring the knowledge was wasted. This last part of the video will discuss how to know if what someone is teaching is true, and then there will be a summary at the end and some conclusions. So let's look at 5 skeptical questions that you can ask to see if what somebody's teaching is actually true. We'll refer to the person sharing the knowledge as the teacher, but it could literally be anyone sharing what they learned, like as a doctor or a sports coach. Okay, so number 1, here's the first question. If the teacher never tried it, then how would he even know if the knowledge truly works? One could argue that the teacher wouldn't know because he never tried to see if his boat design was actually able to build a boat that floats. But what would he say in his defense? The teacher's counter-argument would be that people can testify that they have been able to apply his teaching successfully and that it helped them. So perhaps the teacher never applied his own knowledge, but other people have tried his knowledge and advice and it worked for them. In other words, people can attest to the fact that the boat design actually works in real life. Question number 2. What if the teacher tried applying his advice and knowledge, but it didn't work in reality for him? Kind of like a chef who's not willing to eat his own food. In this case, that might mean that the knowledge is false, in other words, the food is bad. But if the knowledge is false, then that obviously means that it's not helpful. And that would mean that the teacher fooled himself. He wasted his time when he was learning something he didn't apply. But we're jumping to conclusions here. Remember, there's a separation between knowing and applying. And the same counter-argument still holds true. If people can testify that they have been able to apply it successfully and it helped them, it doesn't matter if the teacher himself wasn't able to do so. So perhaps the teacher failed when he tried, but more people have tried the knowledge and advice and it worked for them. Let's go to question number 3. Perhaps the teacher is unwilling, not unable to apply his own knowledge. In other words, he could apply his own knowledge to his own life, but he doesn't want to do it for some reason. How do we know if the teacher even wants to apply his own knowledge? Let's propose that the teacher doesn't want to apply it. Why could that be? Perhaps the teacher knows it will cause harm to others and his intention is to cause harm. But what would he say in his defense? Real people can testify that they have been able to apply his advice successfully and it helped them. People have tried his knowledge and advice and it worked for them. Question number 4. What if the teacher doesn't know or simply doesn't care if his teachings are harmful? For example, he just cares about making money or keeping his job. For example, if you're talking with an insurance agent, technically he is your teacher because he's telling you what to do, but he also doesn't care if what he's teaching you is true or not. What's the counter-argument? You guessed it, it doesn't matter as long as real people can testify that they have been able to apply it successfully and that it helped them. Last question, number 5. What if something unforeseen happens when the knowledge is applied in a real-life scenario? One problem solved often leads to new situations and issues, and the teacher wouldn't know about this new set of problems because he never tried for himself to see what happens. So let's look at this example. The instructor in your cooking class in your school, who has never actually grilled a steak, reads that higher heat will ensure the meat is cooked through. He advises his students to turn the grill to the highest setting to avoid undercooked meat. And what happens? Well, the students follow the instructor's advice and turn the grill to the highest setting. While the meat is indeed cooked through, it turns out that it's charred on the outside. The instructor solved the problem, but he didn't see the next problem that emerged because he hadn't put his own theory into test. The counter-argument here is that the instructor might have observed his students fail, that is, char the meat, in the class before yours, so now he can tell you to add extra oil. So the instructor is effectively learning from someone else's mistakes, and then he's using those events to improve the material he's teaching. And so this leads to real people being able to testify that they have been able to apply it successfully and that it helped them. So it's pretty fascinating. Actually, the counter-argument answers all of the 5 critical questions posed. And here's a comment on the counter-argument. Okay, so the knowledge has worked for some people, but what percentage of those who tried to implement his knowledge was actually helped? If it's a minority, that is less than 50% being helped, then his knowledge is not certainly helpful. The receiver has to be aware of this, either by asking himself or by being informed. The main problem is essentially how many percent of the people who tried his advice were actually helped. If a teacher had a 0.3% success rate and he also had 1,000 students in his life, he could cherry pick 3 out of those students to vouch for him. But let's pretend for the sake of argument that yes, the teachings and advice is working for the vast majority. Then the teaching is useful. And in turn, the fact that the teacher took the time to acquire the knowledge without himself acting upon it is still helpful for society. But on the other hand, if no one else has tried what the teacher is proposing with his knowledge and advice, and not even himself, then the fear and critique is validated, and his knowledge and advice may very well be wrong.